Good morning. Welcome to Bergamo. And I thought we were going to have quite a highly spiritual class this weekend, which we are. But unfortunately, there's this, as the year went by, I have this Zen calendar, and I kept picking out certain sayings that it would say, hold for Bergamo, hold for Bergamo. So I had this little pile through the year of different things that said, hold for Bergamo. And as you know, I usually put little sayings back there, but this time these sayings want to be part of the class. And I just want to say it's the 29th of October, 2012.
September.
What month is it?
September.
It is? It's September the 29th. And this morning my clock was on the wrong time, so as you can see that I have transcended all time and space and months and dates and numbers and mechanical devices. Anyway, the first one that's popping out for me is, there is no room for God in him who is still full of himself. Now, most people take that term to mean someone that's full of themselves is someone that's, their pride and ego is in this positive form of, oh, look at me, aren't I great? Where that isn't exactly what, on the Zen term, is meaning. It means if I'm thinking about myself, and we used to have a saying, I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. And, concentrating on the universal script that every, quote, human being in this incarnation hears underneath everything else is, I'll never be good enough. And especially on the spiritual path, there always seems like there's more, I got to get higher, I didn't meditate longer. Maybe if I meditate longer through the day, instead of 4 hours a day, maybe if I do 8, maybe if I, let me just float out of this particular dream picture, and all of us drawn to a Joel work that is basically the goal is to what? Why? I want to ask you all, and I want real answers. Why did you come to the infinite way? I know we say grace brought us, spirit brought us, but what was the number one thing you were looking for? I know I'm going to just say peace. I was looking for peace. What drew you? I mean, what did you think you were going to get out of Joel's teaching when you first started coming? What were you driven there out of pain and need? Were you drawn there out of desire for something? Why? What really was the carrot that made you start going or listening to Joel or reading Joel? Judy.
I wanted a direct communication.
Okay, direct communication with God. Conscious contact with God. All right, what did anybody else want? Tracy?
I wanted a spiritual. I was asking for a spiritual path.
Okay.
Out of need, desperation, desire.
Okay, so we wanted the need of a spiritual path out of desperation of the human scene, your story, your script, need, desire. I was driven out of pain myself too. It was just, I had to have something. I was so hungry for God. Okay, anything else?
I felt like I didn't have a choice. As soon as I heard the name Joel Goldsmith in a different setting, a different retreat, I just had to find out more. And it was just, I guess, a quest for God.
Yeah, quest for God. Just had to have a choice. I mean, didn't have any other choice. Right. Okay.
I was taking a yoga class because of health. More I wanted to be healed. And the gal who was a yoga instructor, had a class on my search for God for Edgar Cayce. And then she started playing Joel's tapes.
Okay, so it started with a quest for health.
Health and peace of mind.
And peace of mind.
Two
Okay. All right. What was that inner draw? Well, for you, yeah. I mean, the rest of you.
Well, for me, it was curiosity. And
Curiosity.
I was exploring.
Exploring.
I think that was what the Joel-
Curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I first read one of Joel's books, I resonated to it. Very different from the upbringing that within a different church that I grew up in.
Okay.
That I didn't connect with.
Right.
At all, so
Right.
I resonated to Joel.
Resonated to the Joel to the actual teaching.
I didn't understand it, but I resonated to it.
Right. Right. At a
Mentally, I didn't understand it, but
at a
heart-wise and
right.
you know, I had a, you know.
Your heart
physical-
crave. Yeah. Okay. All right. Marge. Did I do that? Okay. Yeah. So there was an emptiness and right. Okay. Harriet, what brought you to Joel? What was it, a need or a pull? Was it a pull or a push?
I'm having a hard time remembering right now. I guess I just liked it. I was on a spiritual path, and for some reason,
Clicked for you? Yeah. Okay. Usually it has to be some form of being, quote, lost, perhaps lost in the world of religions or ways, paths, perhaps desperate because I can't take another breath unless I get fed or connect, have that connection. And then I think it comes in phases, or we want something out of it. I just wanted relief, from the world, and it was like I had to have more God. And what's interesting about the path is that the more I learn, the more certain I am that I don't know anything, which is the great, what would you say? Well, and the more I meditate, the more the words disappear for me, and numbers disappear. So maybe that's not such a good thing. Anyway, the neat thing about it all is no matter what path I'm traveling as I'm heading home, no matter what path I choose to come home to God of my understanding or to my heart, my soul, we're all heading home. And we got a big conversation, at breakfast about the different paths that bring us to investigate. Mother Teresa, Teresa of Avalon, she wrote several books on her experiences with the conscious contact to God, and how she was adamant that her sisters, that she started the first nun convent there in Avalon, and that she was adamant that the sisters do something called investigate and meditate. She insisted on silence, but she insisted on them doing what is called investigation. An investigation about what I'm believing, what story I'm believing about. Usually it starts with them out there. There's something out there where people are doing something that's causing a reaction in me. And Joel's teaching is about non-reaction. The way we know we have a belief in quote, a fantasy or something of that nature. The way we know we have it is we're getting a physical or emotional reaction. It's some people call it a glitch, something that just doesn't sit right out there. And it's usually for at first, everything that I'm seeing, as Paul talks about, the beautiful analogy Paul gave, was the glass darkly, the stained glass window that I'm seeing through, and all the colors, all I can see all I can see is the color I have tinted the stained glass window with my belief system, with the ideas that I've either picked up or imagined myself. So it's nice to sit in that silence and just back up into the light and not pay any attention to the stained glass window, except the moment I blink, I turn around and there it is again. There's that picture out there. There's that mirror back at me, showing me something I still believe, even though I can rise, even though I can sit for hours and days in that oneness of spirit, and oh, how beautiful it is to do that. However, the day comes when I erupt, either physically or emotionally, in front of my fellows. I get a reaction I get a glitch. I react rather than respond. And yes, we try to learn to go in, deal with it in here, and then respond rather than react. But sometimes those reactions, because the more I resist looking at a belief system that I don't want to see, the bigger the charge comes, and the more it builds up to where it spills, and it spills in a million ways. And the interesting part is when I kept asking about this class and saying, what in the world is gonna, what in the world will this be about? I kept hearing to walk, trot, canter. Other people call it going back to basics. I got to teach one more time the principles of the infinite way, which is the nature of God, the nature of prayer, the nature of man, and the nature of error. I think we're all pretty good. In fact, I can boil down those terms to the definition of God, of course, is omnipresent, omniscience, all the omnis, right here, right now, the definition of God. The boiling down the definition of prayer to surrender and silence, listening, hushing up, not talking, not bequeathing, not asking, but the nature of prayer is resting in and feeding from that which is coming through. Okay, we can stand on those. Is there anyone here that doesn't know the nature of God as presence, as spirit, as my divinity, as your divinity, whether seen or unseen or available to me visually or not? Does anyone in this room not have those firmly, that they can stand on it no matter what's happening in the parking lot at the grocery store, or an accident on the road, or the phone call that says so-and-so's in the hospital, they're not going to make it? Are you right there? God only on the scene. God here now. God divinity appearing as. Are you right there when that minute that happens? Because that's where we have to be. The minute that call comes, whether it's external in our eyesight, a mother hitting her child or whatever it is it God on the path right here, right now? And when the phone rings, in the classroom, are we all knowing that's God calling? Regardless of who's on the other end, That's God calling. That's where we got to be. Okay, that's what, nature of God. Boom. Divinity, here, now, me, them. Second one, nature of prayer. Where do I go? Oh God, please help that little boy. No. Oh God, let me drop into soul. Because you see, the outer appearance, the stories that's going on with that mother hitting the kid and all, is part of script, the nature of error. But where am I to go? I'm to go to soul to the mother, soul to the child, soul to the person on the phone telling me, soul to what I've just heard. So-and-so just passed. Soul. Nothing's going on. This is the nature of illusion. Ah, I'm seeing this movie on the screen, but soul. I mean, I can read a book and I start praying for some of the characters in the book. Nature of God, nature of divinity. And that was kind of a joke, but I have found myself saying, oh God, what are you doing? So those are our two firm ones. Now we have one called the nature of error. Now what the heck does that mean to you? One word and one word only. Do you know what that one word is? Hypnotism or illusion. Hypnotism is a really good one. I got hypnotized into believing that. But why? And this is not what I thought was going to come out here, but I got to thinking about, I've been on this path 35 years this year, and I've been exposed to live 12, 15 infinite way teachers, not to mention all the gurus and everybody else I've gone to in workshops. But from Virginia, been to Lorraine Sinkler, Eileen Bowden, Will Hoff, Herb Fitch, Doris Crawford, Mary Hunt. It goes on and on and on. Those who were able to take the Joel principles and go out and sit with it and reveal aspects of why Joel called it the infinite way, because all of us here are part of that infinite way, that infinity of being in all the different forms and avenues of awareness that we have and the way we relate in our communities. We're all going out as a teacher. And what I have seen, and then I came to a teacher called Mary Muhl. And by this time I had basked in the silence. Well, with Mary Hunt, we used to go 8 days and sit in silence at Three Rivers. Used to be with Doris. We would have whole weekends of silence. And everybody would go home, and within 2 to 3 hours to 2 to 3 days, you were back in your script event with whoever, whatever was triggering something. And there we were, back in reaction. But Joel says we can't have reaction because then we're not being spiritual. Wait a minute, what's going? Let's just meditate. We'll pretend I didn't have that reaction. And it'll all go away and it'll all be fine. Except it doesn't. If only it did. If only those things never showed up again. But unless I do what Teresa of Avalon says, investigate. Why am I reacting? You see, if I don't do that, which I spent years not insisting on not doing, with one foot in that path and the other foot in being in a 12-step room, which insists on investigation, or you're going to fall back to sleep again. What does that mean? Back to sleep in the illusion, back to sleep in believing. I had to come in and uproot my beliefs about you, my beliefs about me, mostly that I did not believe that you were divinity because you were showing me something else. I did not believe that I was divinity because the truth was I was not looking like divinity at all to me and my judgment of what that would look like, because my story and my humanness was right out here with the rest of you. We were all just doing the dances that we do, but then we could all come together and sit and rise above and be holier than holy. Oh, how I love that. Oh, how I love to float and be holy and be in that presence of God and rest and thank God, but then come back and here it is again. My garden needs weeding. I got to water the plants. I've got to pay the bills. I've got to interact with the neighbor who's insisting on playing the TV so loud and his dog barks 24/7, on a rope and pees in the same spot all the time, and I get to smell it, and I've got to deal with that, Oh, I'll just pretend, it's just God on the rope. It's just God on the porch blasting the whatever. Or do I come home? I go, okay, what illusion am I operating under that it should look like? Well, by all means, it should look like peace and harmony and joy. And here I am in the kingdom of God here now. Why am I focusing on that? So I come home and I come back here and I say, oh, I'm operating under the illusion that in this third dimension, I'm supposed to make this the kingdom. No. What does Jesus tell us? The kingdom of God is within. That's where I have my peace. That's where I have my harmony. And in the meantime, I've got to investigate my beliefs about what that's supposed to look like. And amazingly enough, as I look at the part of the stained glass window, if I just back up and stay in the light, that stained glass window that I have painted those colors because I have taken in the belief system, I must go back and say, well, now why am I seeing brown over here? I need to see what belief I have about me or about you. And it's interesting that a teacher called Barbara Muhl was told from the corner of her room, because Joel was with her out at her ranch, and she kept reacting to her husband. She'd come home from class, and yet her husband, Edward, could always get her. The minute she'd get home, here went all the peace and love and joy in the world, and here was Edward not acting the way she thought he should be acting. But what she saw was it wasn't what they were doing that was causing her so much disturbance, but what she would hear about herself as a result of reacting. And what it was you will be, her particular script at the time was, you will be ignored and treated with indifference. And it would get her every time. And if you're getting a glitch about anything or anybody out there, if I get a glitch from anybody out there, I've got to come home and investigate what my belief is about. Not them, but what does it make me hear about me? And underneath, she discovered, because from the corner of the room, she said, oh God, what is going on here? I sit with Joel, and some of his last words to Barbara were, why aren't the students getting the nature of error? I don't understand it. I've been teaching since the 30s. It's in the 60s. Why aren't they're getting the nature of God, they're getting the nature, of man as illusion, they're getting the nature of prayer as silence, but they're not getting the nature of error. Because just saying it's hypnosis wasn't didn't seem to be enough, or saying that it's just all illusion. Walk out of the theater. Fine, you walk out of the theater, but if you haven't undone that script, you're going to walk right into another theater with the same script until you stop believing it. So out of the corner of the room, the voice said to Barbara in her desperation, "The reason you react to Edward is he is the perfect reader of your script, and you cannot forgive him for that." And she had never heard the word script. Of course, Edward was head of Universal Studio, and she had been a script writer, not writer, but script, editor, or she had been in the business. Perhaps that's why that word was given to Barbara to understand. Anyway, he is the perfect reader of your script, and you can't forgive him. And from that point, she said, "What in your world is script? What are you talking about?" And from that, the whole understanding of this message of script came forth, which was, you must recognize when your script has been engaged, and you will know because it hits you somewhere. Usually the emotional body, which is in your, I wanted to say vortex, solar plexus, vortex is right, emotional vortex, which you pull everything to you because it's very magnetic. Oh God, I didn't want to teach this today.
Oh, we need it.
I so want to float with you. And then you'll go home and the calls will start. There's a perfect reader of your script. So from that came the term your needle. 12-step program calls it your qualifier, that person that gets in there. People call it getting your buttons pushed. They know how to push people say my kids know how to push my buttons. My parents know how to push my buttons. And she found out that you either give birth to your needles, your needle gives birth to you, or you marry it. Of course, now we're more evolved. You then probably go to work for it, in your somewhere where you work. If you're not mating up, then you're going to get it from a boss, or someone who has enough power that you want them to love you. And if they're not quite doing it the way you perceive, a husband should love you, a boyfriend should love you, a sister should love you, a parent, my mother and father, how they love me, how my minister should love me, how my boss should love me, whatever that is. The bottom line underlying human script is, and this is what you hear, this is the universal parent. This is Mary Baker's Eddy's, what she called, what did she call it? The word's right there. Aren't any Christian scientists here? Carnal mind, thank you. Carnal mind. There's so much terminology for it. Now, having been led through a 12-step program, which makes you investigate your behaviors, your lies, your actions, so that you don't continue them, because if you continue all those behaviors and ways of thinking, you're going to go back and drink and die again. So you do it because it means your life and death, and then you're led through that from the investigation to your meditation. I'm finding that you get there through a program like the Enneagram that's going on here now. It's investigation of the personality traits. You get it in astrology. You can go that path where you're investigating the nature of your human, quote, incarnation. Now, I have said, and I continue to say all along, if we're just supposed to float in the fourth dimension, then why did I incarnate here in what I call the planet of mirrors? Why did I come into this, quote, illusion, quote, movie script? it has to be to heal it. It has to be to see the truth about it. And the beautiful thing about each person tearing up their script or stopping to believe it, regardless of what's going on out there, is then we erase that part of the stained glass window. It becomes clear, the light shines through, and we no longer see it out there in our kingdom. Whatever this, I'm going to just name a few scripts in case I'm losing any of you. And the interesting part of script that unfolded through Barbara and the work there out at the ranch, the interesting part was we saw that underneath that, no matter how hard I try, I'll never be good enough. Over that lies a lot of other scripts that are our trigger scripts, such as I'll never really be accepted, you'll always be left out, you'll be mine was I had one of my major ones, you'll be cast out and left for dead, and I kept creating that, or not creating it, wrong, forget that word, evidencing it out there, seeing it as such out there. Another one, no, you know, like I said, you'll never be. The other one I had in Barbara Muhl's script was she would be ignored and treated with indifference. So she became very, very big, and a teacher and an entertainer and a singer and all that. So that she created the resistance behavior to not being seen and heard and ignored and treated with indifference. So you can usually find your script by finding events, specific events where you were wounded, when you were hurt. When you find that event, you can hear the dialogue, oh, there it is again, you weren't accepted, or you weren't understood, or they never listened to you, you're so different, you'll never fit in. On and on and on they go, overlying. Well, now what in the world does this have to do with Joel? The nature of error. And here we are, living in it. We watch these scenarios unfold in television. We read and watch the types of entertainment that you're drawn to, because that's kind of something you relate to. And if you're, you know, I can't understand like the horror movies that the kids love to go in, you know, and the soap operas and the dramas, or do you go to just comedies, or what do you seek out? But all of this investigation is to help you to see the hypnotic nature of these family dynamic stories, astrology, traits. It's all interconnected into trying to wake us up to divinity here now. Now, the way we investigate why I get a glitch every time, I notice there's a person that whenever they're going to show up at someone else's house, I notice that I get the hell, I get out of there. It's like, oh, they're coming, I'm out of here. Well, why? Because this particular person I know does not like me, does not want me around. It's very obvious, you know, when I'm there, I'm ignored. And it's funny because that's what I see, you see. And when I pull back and do my work, do my blessing for her, do my forgiveness that she's a perfect reader of my script, you know, then I go back, what's my script? Oh yeah, she's the one that there's just a couple now. They're very, very faint now that I will be projecting that out on. And the truth is, that person, when I really back up, and I'm being given this right as we speak, when I back up, she's just so self-involved that she doesn't see anyone. And I'm starting to meet people around this person too that say, God, she doesn't even see me when I'm there. And I'm like, that's what goes on with me. So sometimes you just remove yourself, but I don't do it without investigating. And then I can say, yes, that's her script. That's her script. That's what she needs to do. I must know, and then I get under, and I go to soul, and I get under, and I got to know, that's God right there with her blinders on, and I realize that my presence reads her script back to her, and that's why she can't stand me being there. My presence reads her script back to her. So if anyone is ignoring you out there, or anyone is running from you, or anyone is abandoning you and leaving, you perhaps are the perfect reader of their script, and they can't stand you for that. They can't stand the mirror, so they get away, or they do whatever they do to break the mirror or get away from you. So here we are living in this land of mirrors and personality types and all of this, the nature of error, thinking any of us are anything other than pure, divine, spiritual source. The peace. And I had some person call me this month. It was so interesting. He used to kind of delve in the work, but kind of got off into the film business and got all caught up with life and his story and drama, and doesn't do the work anymore. But whenever he gets into serious health problems or relationship issues, he'll call. So the other day he called, and he says, I'm starting a film project. I need help. He said, I'm so anxious. I'm so upset. I said, okay, let's look at what's going on, because we meditated 3 or 4 times on it, and he'd still call, and he was still anxious. So, okay, we got to go in and do script. We got to see what's going on. What are you hearing? Well, they won't like me. Okay, they won't like you. All right. They're not going to respect me. He's the producer director. Not going to respect me. Not going to like me. Okay. Then what? Well, I'll get a bad reputation. Okay, then what? And we walked it all the way down through, and there was personality clashes that 2 people didn't want each other in the thing, and they were blaming him and they both wanted him to get rid of the other person. So here he was, and he wanted to please both of them because he liked both of them. So one was a makeup person, so he's like, what'll I do? My other producer can't stand her, and blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, let's stand. So we were standing on their identity and standing on truth. But I finally got to, let's get back to you. Why are you upset? Why are you reacting? And as we worked, we got to, and then they'll all leave me. And I went, oh, what peace. They've all left, and we busted out laughing and realized that so many of the scripts go to abandonment. They'll all go away. They'll all leave me. And today, it's, oh, what peace. They've all left. What peace. However, previous lifetimes, when they all left, it meant our death. It meant our death, and this is why the script is so terrifying. This is why we ignore it, is when our script was read before, and I do have recall of several incarnations where I was cast out of the city wall, the tribe, left tied at a tree to die, different things like that. I have recall of that abandonment, not just my mother and father, when I came in this lifetime, with the abandonment thing of they didn't want me kind of thing. That wasn't intensified enough for me to see how many lifetimes I had been, because I had a script I'd be cast out and left for dead. And I've had it recur 3 times, and only this time you don't die, because we're in an incarnation where we learn how to take care of ourselves. We've learned that we're this way, that we are pure identity, and that we have an understanding of our God self now. You can't abandon me to death now. You can leave, but you see, now I have a source, and you're not it. The only reason people have abandonment scripts and are so afraid if they piss somebody off, they're going to leave, is they still have that thing of it will mean my death. Well, we know there is no more death, A. B, we just simply drop this story, this body, this human scene, and move on. So that removes the fear right there. If I'm attuned to it, if I can get to this point of, ah, what peace, and then turn, ah, here's somebody standing with open arms over here. Oh, how nice. So all of this planet of mirrors, this nature of error that we are seeing and involved in, if we can rise above it and just stay in the altitude of prayer, great. And my hat is off to you. I have been someone who has had to rip up and investigate and tear up the scripts, and because I still somewhere deep down inside, if I get a reaction, which that is what Joel so plainly said, if you get a reaction, you are believing it somewhere. Now, before I can float into my deliciousness of silence, I've got, what am I believing that's not true? Because if I don't stop believing it and tear it up and say, and build a case against it, month later, 2 months later, 2 years later, there it is again, dressed up in another costume, in another scene, until I tear it up. And the beauty of tearing up your script, your story, your belief about you and them, they'll always leave me. I'll never be good enough. They're never going to listen to me, whatever it is. Unless you investigate that and tear it up, it sits, it waits. The beauty of it is, as I dissolve it for me, because we do world work, this is not about little Dulcie getting rid of little Dulcie's script. It's about dissolving the universal belief in 2 powers. So now we're back to the 2 main principles of Joel. First we started with nature of God, nature of prayer, nature of error. Now we go to non-power. We see that all along, all of those fears are the 4 things, if you're writing. Or maybe I'll put them on the board after I finish. I will. I'll put this step. The 4 things we must investigate is fear, desire, hate, and love, because those are the 4 attachments of the nature of error. Barbara said, you break all attachments or they will be broken for you. And believe me, when they're broken for you, they're much more painful than seeing them ahead of time and tearing them up. The beauty of it is it gets back to seeing the non-power in any of that. And what are the 2 things we learn from the 2 main principles that sets the infinite way aside from astrology, enneagram, script work, 12-step work, all the other wonderful things out there, the course in all the wonderful things that get you to investigate, name it and claim it and dump it, is impersonalization. ah, this is the nature of man. This is the human scene. This is the nature of man. Ah, as I tear it up, the 100th monkey theory is taking place. As I discover how to drink out of the coconut shell at the water like the monkey did, 100 monkeys over on the next island over at the same time, because we are all one, consciously start to pick up the coconut shells and use them as cups. That's the 100 monkey theory. So as I tear up my individual belief about me and thee and you, whether it's a false belief in God, such as God doesn't love me, I'm not good enough, even God doesn't love me, look what I've done, just look what I've done. Self-forgiveness is the most difficult thing a human being tries to do. Why? Because you can't. A human being cannot forgive. Must access the higher sense of God. Must go into my soul, my heart, and say, God, I of my own self am nothing. I cannot forgive myself, and I cannot forgive this person. I need your help. And I start in the prayer then. And I put it before God, and I name it, and I claim it. And I personally have to say it before God, myself, and one other human being to dissolve the truth, to dissolve the darkness. And I think that's where two or more are gathered in my name comes in. I find that with one other person, the humility step needed to allow myself to forgive and to let it go. Let it go. Let that script go. I must name it, claim that I believed it, and then I must let it go. Let go and let God. And I cannot of my own self do that. Although I'm being brought in all the literature I read to believe that I'm supposed to be able to just sit down in prayer and forgive. And then bam, 2 months later, there's the script again. I hadn't tore up the belief that it should be different. And Mary Hunt gave me 4 principles. She said we must learn to surrender, to accept, to forgive, and practice gratitude. Those are the 4 from her that we do in order to annihilate those other 4 attachments. It's pretty interesting how everything comes together. And I used to think, why am I going to all these teachers? Because each one has the gem that I need to tuck into my particular toolkit to integrate. Because you see, we're not amputating what we call ego or human mind. We're not amputating it. We are transcending it. But until I investigate and see what I'm believing about me or thee, I cannot drop it. So Barbara came to a process of, she has 7 steps of script. First, you must recognize. And how do you recognize? I got a glitch. I want to die. I want to hit that person. I want out. I want to leave. I want to fix something because I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm not safe. I'm being disturbed. I need to be, what am I believing? Well, there it is again. There it is again. I'm believing I'm not good enough, or I'm believing you're not good enough. Somehow. That's where I go to God. And this was a profound experience for me. I'll share it to you. After working with Barbara for several years, and this was after years of meditation and years of Joel and years of going to Asilomar with Virginia. And then I started working with Barbara, and I went up to the desk one day after a class, and I had just sat there digging, and the more she talked, the deeper I dug myself into this pit of self-flagellation. And I went up to the desk and I said, Barbara, no matter how hard I try, I'll never be good enough. And she lowered her glasses and she looked at me and she said, that's right. Only God is good enough. But do you know that owning it dissolved? You know, it was like, oh my God, of course I'll never be good enough. What? You know, but that's where that wonderful saying, agree with thy adversary, you know, and resist not, I'll never be good enough. Okay, I'll never be good enough. But God is. And we have, you know, God should and would if sought. But I must seek him. I must recognize. You see, God always just is. Divinity always just is love, unconditionally, arms like this, loving, loving, loving. And it's me that's over there going, no, 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 I'm not good enough. If I'm buying my script, or they can't possibly have God, look at them. So if I'm judging in any way, good or evil, there's the other principles of Joel's work. Neither good, neither evil. Neither black, neither white. We live in this illusionary world of duality. And this is where you see how all of these principles come together? The nature of non-power of this dimension. The minute I say, oh, of course I can't be good enough, I'm powerless. What a relief. It's all God. It's just God. God appearing as. God ising, asing. How can God be wrong? And I come back home, and now I have all of these stepping stones to place my feet while I live between the two worlds. And the two worlds are not the third dimension and the fourth dimension, which is what I was grasping for a long time. I thought living between two worlds meant having one foot in the spiritual realm of meditation and silence and beauty and joy, and at the same time the other foot, for me, in the Hollywood film set. And here you were, walking what Mary Hunt wrote a book called The Razor's Edge, walking the razor's edge. And that's what I thought it meant, until I was informed inwardly that it meant, no, living in good and evil, in that living between two worlds of judgment, of good and evil, which is all script, which is all the nature of error is all duality, script, old belief systems, and we must destroy our belief systems. We must learn to be real or authentic. That means where I'm there, owning it, naming it and claiming it, because it cannot dissolve until, as long as I'm resisting it, it cannot dissolve. As long as I'm insisting I'm not there when I am, or being somebody other than I am. So I must destroy those old beliefs. I must learn to be real or authentic, and I must learn to love the way God loves. I am being brought into that spiritual place of unconditional love, which means no duality. You see, unconditional love means I'm not judging it as good or evil. It's just ising. It just is what it is. I have a prayer stool because I prefer when, as Abraham Lincoln said, and I've quoted this before, but I still love it, many a time have I been brought to my knees, for I simply had nowhere else to go. And that, for me, is the surrender of, I give up. I give all this up. I give this duality world of good and evil and right and wrong and black and white and good and bad. I give it up. I surrender it. I just drop into the silence, into, without the lifting of the spiritual God self, I am just a victim of this. So it is time to give up the victimhood of my script. It is time to tear it up and stop with this victim of I'm not good enough, I can't, no matter how hard I try. Or when you're resting in that pure silence, absorbing it, allowing it, being it, and then saying, someone called and said, I need this retreat so bad. Why? Why would we need to come away to find where we are? Why did we drive or fly or come and leave our homes and come here to come together? The main reason is recognition. You see, here we're not reading each other's scripts. We're loving. We're recognizing your God self. It's so plain here, and we talk about wanting the fellowship around the table. And as far as I'm concerned, I started eating with the students a long time ago because I found that as I would isolate, I wasn't getting where you all were. I was sitting off in my own room and I wasn't getting, God can only reach you where you are, not where you want to be. So I started hanging out to see where we all were. What is really going on when you leave this and drive out the driveway and get into your home, your town, your job, your relationship, your children? What's really going on? How much of this practice is going on there? Can you stand? Can you stand on principle? Are you standing on principle? Every single time? And then we fall, we fail, we're in line. Don't they know who I am? I've got to hurry. Why do they have all those coupons? What is that man do? What's that woman doing? Digging for change on my time. Let me give her the damn penny she's looking for, no. Wait a minute here. Who's looking for their penny? Must be God. I'm just confused here for a minute, So we get on our prayer stools, and mine has embroidered on it, it is what it is. It is what it is. And we come home, to the beautiful, beautiful, and I call coming to Joel feels like coming home so much, because Joel is soul. His teaching is soul. He brings you home to the heart, to the soul. All that other stuff vanishes, and whether it's what sign I am and what cusp I'm on and how the moon and how the stars, that's all wonderful. But higher than the moon and the stars and deeper in me is my calling beyond that, beyond the Enneagram personality script, quote, character defects, the things, our resistance behavior to our scripts getting read to us is a behavior we develop to keep that pushed back. And when I lay it all down and become real and become authentic, here's who I am here now. And I don't need to tell you about how you are reading my script. It's my business. So if ever you're wanting to go to somebody and say, you really hurt my feelings, why? Wait a minute. Why did I hurt my feelings in the work isn't getting you to change or trying to manipulate the outside, as Paul says, through the glass darkly, not manipulating out there. It's coming home. What am I seeing? What am I believing? How am I reacting? Wait just a minute. What attachment do I have to love, hate, desire, or fear? What attachment am I massaging in here that I'm reacting that way? You know, half the time when back in the, the 80s that we were confronting, I don't know, 80s, 90s maybe, the whole idea in the New Age movement was you really hurt my feelings, and you go up and you said this and then we came to, no. I felt this way when you did so and so. What I'm doing is saying, I want you to change so I don't feel bad. And that's not the work. The work is coming home. Now, why did I feel that way when you did or didn't do? The other one is didn't do what I wanted you to do to make me lovable, make me feel loved, make me feel wanted, make me feel secure, make me feel unabandoned. Okay, what was I expecting? And it's interesting because Barbara told a story, and I recently experienced it, and I went, oh, this is exactly what Barbara. So I have a housemate now, and a wonderful gal in Sedona, so that I can have winter-summer homes. I don't do cold, as you all know. Anyway, that's personal. There's another script. They're froze to death in another lifetime. Anyway, but I still want that sunshine. So anyway, her daughter said, older daughter, we never get to spend time. I'm going to come for the weekend. And Mom, because Barbara had 9 children. Mom, I just want, and up to 13 foster children and adopted children also. Well, 6 she gave birth to, adopted 3, and then the rest were foster. Anyway, he said, Mom, I'm coming home, and by this time they were all old, so they weren't little kids or anything, and I just want us to have some time together. And Barbara said, great, I'm going to clear my calendar. So she clears her calendar totally to spend time with this daughter, and who was doing the work, and she gets home, and the first night she says, oh, so-and-so's in town, I'm going to go have dinner with them. And Barbara said, that's fine. And the next day she gets up and says, such and so, they're going over to the mall, and you don't mind if I go, And anyway, Barbara sat there going, and the whole weekend, the girl had come home to be with her mom and begged for the time and spent the whole time with other people. Well, I just had that experience twice, and I remembered this where my housemate, we wanted to be together and have a special day together, and we were going to do this and do that. Next thing I know, her daughter's coming along, and then the next thing I know, her and her daughter are off doing something that wasn't even on our agenda because the daughter had a wedding to go to or this or that. Anyway, we never had any time the whole day and the whole evening, and I just sat there and I went, isn't that interesting? It's just what Barbara had said. Well, now, I fortunately have torn up that, quote, abandonment script because I go to, oh, what peace, they're gone. She's gone, thank God. Where before I would have, how dare she? And then I get in her face, I spent this I saved this time for you, and then you did, and you. How are we walking and talking authentically in our life, in this world that we live in, this dimension? How am I have I torn that up? Where now if people leave, I am so delighted I can't tell you. Whew. And instead of before, it was like, there must be something wrong with me. They're all left. They don't want me. They're no good. Blah, blah, blah. None of that. It's simply a girl going to spend time with her daughter. Why wouldn't she? They probably don't get that much time. But anyway, I remembered that story. So, all right. So, basically, I was told that we're going to walk, trot, and canter. And for those of you who don't know, that's a terminology that racehorses are used for racehorses. And when a horse starts, jumping their sticks, I don't know the terms, I'm not into that, but when they start jumping and they get the horse up to jump a foot and then 2 feet, and George probably knows all these terminologies, and then they get him to a certain point, and then something happens that the horse acts up. They don't bring the horse back to the post, the stick, whatever that thing is. Huh? The jump. Okay. They don't bring him back to the one before. They bring him all the way back, and they walk them around the ring. Then they trot them, and then they canter them. It's like back to the basic principles of walk, trot, canter. So that's what, when I get building my spiritual journey, and all of a sudden I hit a wall where, quote, nature of error cannot be anything. That was the other thing that she was told from the voice outside, that God voice said, the nature of error is all the evil you will ever know. So when Joel says, why aren't the students getting the nature of error? There was not the awareness yet that we all individually had these scripts, which were basically universal, that we had to get to tearing them up and stop believing them about ourselves or you. So we go back to walk, trot, canter. We get this spiritual stepping, and we get higher and higher, and we get lifted, and we think everything is wonderful, and now I have stepped out of the illusion, horrible movie, and life is great, and boom, something happens. We react, or we respond, or we get a glitch inwardly. Mine now are all inward. I should never have said that. Cancel. I'll go out and make a what out of myself any minute now. No, but mine are to where I can see it and come home with it and sit with it and do my work, And when I do my work, I'm doing the world work, because world work is tearing up the nature of error, moving into the nature of, standing on the nature of God, understanding the 2 principles of the infinite way that set us aside, non-power, impersonalization. But I cannot get there as long as I'm personalizing. And I'm going to personalize as long as I get, and Joel said it, if we are getting a reaction, or we're believing in cancer, or whatever it is back here, we have that belief. I can only take that belief and hold it to God and say, God, here it is. Unless you remove it, I'm stuck with it. Because I need divine intervention, because, you see, I'm powerless over person, place, or thing. I am powerless over my attachments. I am powerless over my belief unless I get God, understanding that right here the divinity of me is rising bigger than that nonsense. And it is nonsense. No sense. There's no sense to it. And notice the word sense. if I'm in my 5 physical senses, if I'm in nonsense. Do you love that? Nonsense. I must move out of the 5 physical senses, which is what is reacting. But why would we have them? Why do we have them? Because they're useful in what we're doing here. And I need those senses. I need feeling. You see, feeling isn't a bad thing. Feeling is God-given so that I can tell that I have another belief system or another lie about me or thee that I must tear up. Then I can rise. Then I can sit. Then I can rest. Ah, divinity, here now, as me, as you, seeing through a glass darkly. And I rest. And you know, now, tomorrow, as we go through our day of silence, and we get any kind of nonsense going on in our heads. Some people say, oh, I hate that day of silence. I don't like it. Why? Am I resting in my head, in my stories, in my scripts, in my dramas? Or am I resting and dropping all of that? So if you've got any kind of script that you want to get out today and you want to tear up a lie, then let's do it. Let's do it today. Not saying that next week you won't find it again or another one, but let's do it today. In talking with one another, in doing your own journaling, in coming to me. If you want, I've made appointments available today. Or you join up with someone and get the script out verbally of what's bothering you so that you can see it, you can tear it up, you can let it go. And then I promise you that tomorrow, you know, from tonight after our class, I just heard we've got a surprise tonight. I don't know what that means. Okay, thank you. So, you know, whatever is going on, we name it, we claim it, we dump it. You know, it doesn't mean anything once it's out of us, once our 5 physical senses are not reacting. And we rest more and more all the time. And most of my days are spent in pure peace and harmony. Very little of this other stuff goes on. But it was to come out today as a teaching. And I never dreamed it was going to today because I just didn't. I thought something else was going to happen here. But you see, I have to go by the demand of the consciousness of what's going on, and that pulls it out. Now, we will be lifting, and we will do it in every one of our meditations, and we will spend tomorrow basking in the sunlight of the Spirit. And we are spending it right now. I just got corrected. We are basking in the sunlight of the Spirit right now in recognition. You see, God is always, always there. But I must recognize God on the scene, or there's no God there. To me, if my awareness is not aware of the presence of God, there's no God there. So here we are, residing in the arms of God. He's lovingly showing us the nature of error so that we can dissolve it and we can stand on the nature of God, the nature of prayer. Non-power. You see, it has no power unless I give it the power. And I give it, how do I give it the power? Here it is. This is very important. How do I give it the power? By believing it. And you see, there's 2 beautiful words. Belief and knowing. There is a huge difference. Believing in something means you still haven't experienced it, but you're going to believe. The mind is going to believe. But knowing means I've experienced it, I've embodied it, I know it. I know, like the breath that I'm taking, that the presence of God is here in every bit of this experience, of this incarnation, of this particular, quote, dream, movie, illusion. I know. You see, most of it, I think, here in this room, know that no matter what all this stuff is, which I would just love to put a tarp over it, splatter paint on top and walk away, we get under it. We hold it up to the light. The light always shows that there is no evil after all. You see, there's light and dark. There's no such thing as darkness. There's just the absence of light. And there's no such thing as these natures of error and script and evil and all that. There's just the lack of the light. So the more I shine the light onto it, and the light has to be in my awareness of that it's going on. As I'm aware of it and bring God, the light, the soul, the spirit, onto the non-sense, those 5 physical senses, sensing all of this. As I bring that light, the light comes. Many times I don't even have the ability to reach out to the light, and it breaks through anyway. I call that divine intervention, when in spite of myself, and I've had many episodes where divine intervention has had to take over because I didn't think I had the willingness to reach out. And there's where our word is of grace. Then we're under grace. Grace of knowing, not just believing, but standing and knowing on the spiritual self. We're done. No, we're not. False sense of separation. That's all we've been talking about. The false sense of separation. If I'm separate from you, script is in gear. If I'm separate from God, script is in gear. Interchangeable with the word nature of error. That false sense of separation from God or from my fellows or from myself. Here's a big one. From myself. I may feel connected to God, I may feel connected to you, but have I separated from myself? Have I disowned myself? Have I denied myself? Have I decided I'm just not, as the universal is, just not good enough? So that's that separation. False sense of separation is always in gear if I'm uncomfortable. Thank you.